All right, so let's talk about Netflix. Netflix is in the news again, and for all the wrong reasons. Recently, they just came out and they decided to slash spending across the board. So let's just jump in right into this article. So it says, faced with slowing subscriber growth, Netflix is seeking to cut costs across almost every part of its business, reports the Wall Street Journal. The streamer is shrinking spending on big ticket items such as real estate, cloud computing, and salaries. Oh boy, employees are not going to be happy. Netflix has laid off more than 400 workers this year. Yeah, I think I saw a couple articles about that, and always tough when you go through a major cut like that. The company also has smaller expenses in its sites. After years of being able to place unlimited orders for Netflix branded coffee mugs, hoodies, backpacks, and other swag, employees are now limited to $300 worth of free merch a year. $300? Are you kidding me? Dude, I would not work there. I would not work that at all. That's nothing. I mean, what can you even do with $300 a year? Anyways, before I get too distracted, let's take a look at the Wall Street Journal article and dig into a little bit more detail. All right. So we all know that Netflix is not doing too well. Obviously, a couple quarters ago, their stock price dropped, I think from, what was it, like $600 something to like $200. And it's now hovering, I don't know, anywhere between $200 to $300, maybe even less than that. So they've got a long way to grow. But in terms of their overall growth, I think growth has actually stagnated or even declined. And so Netflix needs to do something to get back on track. And it looks like the company is doing some major restructuring of its business, cutting costs. And when you hear of a company going through these major changes where they decide to shift their focus and strategy on cutting costs rather than expanding or investing in R&D and trying to innovate, that's usually not a good sign. Now, does it mean that Netflix is going to fall apart and go bankrupt in a couple years? I don't think so. I think they still have a robust catalog of content, and there are original titles on Netflix that no other streamers can promote or show on their streaming service. And so that's helpful, but it's an addiction, man. I mean, people want original, they want fresh, new content, and it takes a lot of money to produce those things. And the article kind of talks about how Netflix is starting to make cuts even in the content space. So could that potentially impact the content catalog where it could even impact the number of users or subscribers that are on the platform? Who knows? But yeah, let's take a look at some of the other points of this article. So it said Netflix had said that it lost nearly 1 million subscribers in the June quarter, citing heightened competition. Yeah, I mean, look at the streaming service now, guys. I mean, for myself, I've got HBO Max, I've got Disney Plus, Amazon Prime, Hulu. Now, I don't pay for all these services. I mean, that's crazy, but I do share them with other family members and friends. And so, no one in their right mind is going to shell out $10, $15, $20 a month for 10 different streaming services. But you can kind of see that this landscape is super competitive and Netflix is feeling the pain of that. It said that the company has laid off more than 400 employees. Okay, we talked about this. Belt tightening is commonplace for companies that confront financial pressures. At Netflix, where years of breakneck growth made cost controls a lower corporate priority, the newfound attention to spending on items big and small marks a cultural shift. Yeah, so I actually interviewed at Netflix and I actually had a few friends, I think some of them are still there, where Netflix has a pretty high hiring bar and they tend to hire very smart, experienced people who are very good at their jobs. And Netflix is also one of those companies that tends to pay top of market. What that typically means is that for the same type of role across different companies and industries, Netflix will likely beat most other competing offers from other tech companies, other, CPG companies, retail companies. It doesn't matter. Netflix is going to pay, pretty hefty salaries for talent. Netflix, I think, also has a pretty interesting comp structure where, and this could have changed since the last time I interviewed, but I think the majority of their comp package is all just cash. So no sign-on bonuses or RSUs. Someone who's at Netflix can correct me, let me know in the comments down below if that's changed, but a lot of it's just cash. So it sounds like what Netflix is trying to do is also not only cut costs by cutting down on content, but also, laying people off, unfortunately. It also says here, Netflix is hiring more junior employees from interns to recent college graduates as part of an expanded emerging talent recruitment initiative. Interesting. Previously, the company had generally recruited experienced staff, particularly for engineering roles. That change means the company can spend less on salaries for some roles and ensures that skilled staff can focus on complex tasks as the company grows. All right. So, that makes sense. I mean, obviously headcount and labor costs are probably going to make up the majority of your expenses after content or maybe even before content. And so trying to hire more younger, more junior employees will save you costs, but it's really hard to sometimes compare the ROI with an experienced engineer versus a junior engineer. I'm personally not an engineer, so I can't really comment on that, but it looks like what Netflix is really trying to do is just cut costs across the board. It says here, spending on perks is also being reined in, and it talks about how the different branded goods, coffee mugs, sweatshirts, and baby onesies that employees can order. I didn't even know about that. Yeah, so overall, it sounds like Netflix is bringing down the hammer on expenses. Netflix chief CFO Spencer Newman said, hey, we're trying to be smart about it and prudent in terms of pulling back on some of that spend growth to reflect the realities of the revenue growth of the business. Netflix has also closed Salt Lake City office, and they're also giving up space in Los Gatos and Los Angeles. Wow. Yeah. Well, I mean, California employees are probably going to be some of the most expensive in the country or in the world. So it does not surprise me that a lot of the job cuts are coming there. And then, of course, the article ends by saying, additionally, the streamer has advised employees in its studio group in recent months to be more mindful of the number of software licenses they pay for. So even like the tools and the applications that they use internally, they're starting to be a little bit more frugal there. Wow, it seems like Netflix is kind of following the footsteps and the leadership principles of Amazon, which is, frugality is one of their major ones. But Netflix, yeah, tough times. I mean, what can I say, guys? When tough times come, you got to make tough decisions. And if Netflix wants to stay competitive, if they want to stay relevant, and if they want to, increase their stock price, I think they're going to have to make some very, very hard decisions. But at a certain point, at one point, are you going to do more harm than good? I think there are definitely some areas where it makes sense to cut, especially with like the perks and benefits. It's definitely not easy, especially if you're someone who's used to those perks and benefits. But I don't really know people who quit their jobs because, company B has better perks than company A. But if you cut too much, you can definitely hurt the morale and the motivation of these employees. And so I think it's going to require a delicate balance to get that right. But, this is what they got to do, and it's not just Netflix. As you see more companies entering the streaming war, it's going to make it tough for everybody because now content is just a commodity and you can either just purchase it or hire some writers and some directors and producers to make new, fresh content. But, that's also a very difficult business to be in because it really depends on striking gold and having a show or a movie or some sort of an original content that sticks with people. Not everything sticks. A lot of the times, even movie theaters or movie studios will release a film thinking that it's going to do well and it bombs. And so there's a lot of luck, I think, that's involved in the movie and the streaming business. There's a lot of timing components that are also very important. So, it's going to be interesting to see how Netflix gets through this. I'm rooting for them. I'm a shareholder. I won't lie. And so I want to make sure that they're doing well, but time will tell. Anyways, guys, let me know what you think in the comments down below about Netflix's financial situation. Do you think they're going to improve over time, or do you think this is the beginning of the end? Like the video, subscribe if you haven't, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.